want them to know that you're knowledgeable, but the relationship, the sense of safety and the trust is huge, because you need somebody who, when you give them a recommendation, they're going to trust that you have their best interest at heart. So in those moments is where that relationship part, that attunement, that vulnerability, those all really come into play, so that they have that felt sense of, this person really has my back and they're really working hard for me.
Welcome, Jesse and Elana. Elana is the wife of Jesse. Jesse Zagorsky is our moderator. Awesome premium coach as well, by the way, of LC Premium. And Elana is a psychologist. Your wife is a psychologist?
LCSW Therapist.
Awesome. And this would be an awesome webinar today for sure, because we're going to definitely, emotional gymnastics has always been a platform to learn like how to deal with our emotion with all of this. Real estate business is like a termite stress business as well. So this is another day to learn more how to deal with, stuff. So Jesse, Elana, go ahead. I'll be here for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that it's funny, Sandra, because my wife and I obviously talk often since we're married and we live together, and we've been. Lucky. I feel very lucky. I absolutely feel lucky. And the way this whole webinar came about is, so I talk to my wife all the time about the just some of the things that we talk about in emotional gymnastics, and then the sales challenges and things that happen with clients. And then she talks to me she's not allowed to share details of her clients because they have a lot more confidentiality than we do in real estate, but the concepts of what she's working on. And I always think about there's these overlaps between what we do in real estate and what she does in terms of how you connect with people, how you have to have people feel comfortable, the stresses, and there's just so many parallels. So we started brainstorming. I'm like, will you just come on one of these shows? And she happened to be off today and not have any clients. And so she's nice enough to come on. I feel very lucky that she's here. And we came up with the topic of the power of vulnerability is what we're talking about today.
True. Because I don't know if you see it, Jesse, but in our Facebook group, there's always like, sort of, it's a joke, but it's also half meant, where they say, I know I'm a realtor, but like 80% of the time I'm a therapist too, that I should even be paid for it.
which is actually even worse, because now we're doing therapy without a license, right? Anyway,
right.
So I want to start. I'll ask Elana a question, which is, I don't even know if most real estate professionals will recognize what the word vulnerability means and how that ties into a real estate situation. But I'm hoping by the end of this, they will understand exactly how it's powerful and how it works in a real estate sales situation. But for you, for your world, from therapy, let's just start with, how do you define vulnerability? What is vulnerability?
Yeah, what is it?
So I don't know the official Webster definition, but the way I look at vulnerability, this is one of my big, very important pieces that I use to establish rapport. And I don't know if that's a phrase you use in real estate. Okay, so attunement, rapport, creating a sense of safety. That's the number one. If I haven't given my clients the feeling that they can tell me anything by the second session, I feel like I haven't done my job. I know that's very similar in real estate.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. So we all, as humans, are designed to protect ourselves, to defend against vulnerability, because there's part of us that feels that vulnerability equates to weakness. Yeah. Really, what ends up happening is when we put up our guard, when we're being very stoic, I'm sure everyone's seen the movie representation of the therapist who sits there and just doesn't talk, doesn't smile, just write notes. I don't know about you, but I would hate to be in that session. So instead, the goal for making people feel close, making people feel safe, is to be vulnerable, to let them see your authentic self, flaws and everything. Every training I've ever gone to, the therapist starts out with, gosh, I'm really nervous. I want to get this right for everyone. And I always notice a softening that I feel inside, because I feel that kinship. I feel that, oh, they're human. They're letting me see their tender places. Now I feel a sense of safety. I feel a sense of rapport with this person. So that's the way I view vulnerability, is when we give people access to our inner authentic self. And we get a lot of strength in relationships from that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as she describes it, Sandra, can you see how the parallels translate over to real estate sales? Like, it's like the thing she's saying, she's talking about clients in a therapy situation, but every time she tells me about the general things going on in her practice with her clients, they're the same challenges we have with our clients, right? You have to figure out how to get them to feel comfortable in stressful situations, I learned a word last night. You just said it again. I'd never heard her say this before, attunement. So we talk about rapport a lot in sales training, but I never heard the word attunement. So can you tell me a little bit more about attunement? What does that mean?
Yeah. So attunement's another really great piece of rapport building. I use attunement a lot. Jesse and I were talking about it the other day because I realized that I had made an error where I wasn't attuning properly. And this is where you really have to be connecting to your emotions to be in attunement with someone else. If we're stoic, if we're kind of putting up our wall, that's when we're not in attunement. And I am going to explain what attunement means, but that's when we're not in connection. And attunement is essentially, I'm feeling what you're emoting and I'm matching it. So if you have a client who's really anxious, this is not meaning that you have to get really anxious with them, but matching with their intensity and validating their emotions goes such a long way, because it gives people that feeling of safety and also that feeling of being heard and understood. So it's like, gosh, this is so nerve-wracking for you. Of course it is. I understand. Oh, I feel that fluttering in my chest when I'm in that situation too. And sometimes I'm even leaning forward. I'm showing that I'm matching their energy level with my body, with my voice. I'm giving a lot of reflecting what I'm hearing. So they really know, oh, okay, she gets that I'm feeling uncomfortable right now, or she gets that I'm mad at my partner in the room right now. And that's kind of attunement. It's also a very natural de-escalator. So when you attune with someone's intensity, they don't feel the need to be up there. They can start to feel safe and de-escalate.
Right. And this, when she told me this last night, I started thinking about, I used to call expireds years and years ago. Those are people who have, the home came off the market. And by the way, Jake, I do see your note. Jake reminded me, we both talk with our hands a lot. I'm noticing. It's funny. And so, no, you can talk with your hands. But he said, I kept putting my hand in front of my mouth, which is blocking the microphone. I always do. This is the first time I've ever had my wife in the same webinar, in the same room. It's so fun for a webinar. I got to get used to not talking with my hands. So when we call expireds, if someone's really frustrated and you pick up the phone and they're like, my home didn't sell, and where were you then? Now all these realtors calling me. You don't get angry at them. You're angry with them. And that's what I heard when you were talking about attunement. If you have a client who's in a deal and they're feeling really stressed and they don't know, right? It's a multiple offer situation. They don't know what they should do. And your client's feeling anxious. You don't get angry. You don't get anxious, you're anxious kind of for them, like with them. Like, you're not nervous. You're the professional. You have to stay detached, but yet you're going forward. I do see Priyanka's here, by the way. I don't know if she's coming on with us. I don't know where you're at. You're welcome to join us on camera, if you're here or there, anywhere. I see you in the background somewhere.
I think that's my bad. Okay. Guess.
All right. But let's go back. Let's go back to vulnerability though for a minute. So if you were a real estate agent, because in the context of a therapy situation, you are obviously you're sharing a little bit of yourself. You're sharing that. How would an agent, do you think? Let's say an agent's, whether you're meeting a client for the first time, how would vulnerability help an agent the first time they're meeting a client?
I'm spitballing here, but well, my guess is, I'm putting myself in the position of the client. My guess is most clients come from a little bit of a guarded place. They're trying to read you. They're trying to get a sense of this person. Are they really wanting to help me? Are they wanting to take advantage? So if I'm putting myself in that real estate agent's place, I'm wanting to let them see my heart, is how we would say it in an EFT framework. But I want them to feel that I'm a real person. So I would say, gosh, I did a lot of prep here, and I don't know how you feel. I'm even a little nervous. I really want to get this right for you. So could you help me by giving me a really clear sense of what your goals are so that I can make sure that I hit all of them? So can you help me is a really nice way of showing, in a subtle way, I'm not the boss. I'm keeping my hands down. I'm not the boss. I'm not the dictator. I'm inviting you to be a collaborative part of this team. And those little moments of, ooh, I want to get it right for you. That's not a weakness. That's an emotional bid, which requires some of that vulnerability. Because technically they could shut you down and say, oh, you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Well, more likely though, I think 9 times out of 10, you're going to get somebody who kind of has a, oh, wow, I must be really special to them. They were nervous. They're asking me what my needs are first. They're inviting me to be a part of this team. So it's helping to ease some of the natural and understandable boundaries and kind of defensiveness that I think most people find themselves in when they're in a new relationship, which is
they kind of, I think it works with you, right? Then rather than against you. Because I think there are people like me initially that I wouldn't want to say that because that makes me look weak, right? That make me looks like I don't know my sheet together if I say that. So I'm initially before hearing this, I wouldn't think of saying stuff like that just because, like what you've already said, doctor, earlier, that majority of us that we don't think of doing that because we think we look weak, right? But actually now it turns out it kind of makes work with you than against you, that you say, especially because I think I was an ISA before for Tristan, and I wasn't meeting person, but I get to experience on the phone, like, people like, they're like emotionless. They don't, you can't tell what they're thinking at all. You're already asking, you've already asked several questions, and yet, I don't know.
But that's where that phrase, Sandra, comes in, which I think is so powerful, because I never thought of working this stuff in, because I was always coming from kind of the old school of like, you be confident, you have to be there, which might work with some personality types, but for the average human being, they're just gonna not be open with you. Then they're just literally gonna you're gonna get that. Whereas if you came at it with like a, hey, can you help me understand? I just want to make sure I'm doing a good job for you. I don't think it shows weakness. I think that allows people to feel comfortable that you're a human being. You're going to open up, like I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah, I love the idea too. I didn't know that that's how it is now, because but for me, like, I have a strong personality too, so I never like would want to look like, whenever like I feel like I'm sounding stupid or I look stupid, I wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, who wants that? That's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling. So I that's why I've never thought of like doing it that way, that can you help me out, because I'm not sure if am I doing things right for you? Is this what you're looking for, right? So now we're realizing now, and everybody who's on here, I think we're realizing now that vulnerability actually has its advantage, right?
Yeah, and of course, balance is important in all things. So I would never suggest to somebody to say, wow, I really don't know what I'm doing, and I came here really unprepared. And there's of course place where no. I'm also
I've never done this before.
Yeah. I'm actually not even in real estate. Yeah.
This is my first day.
Right. So I also let my clients know, hey, here's what I do. I study this extensively. I do supervision, so that you're wanting to balance those two. So you're giving the sense of, hey, I know what I'm doing. And I'm also a human. And I'm also somebody who has a heart, who cares about you, cares about your experience. And I'm sharing a little bit of who I am too. So it's not just about, and I'm guessing this is true with most real estate agents, you want them to know that you're knowledgeable, but the relationship, the sense of safety and the trust is huge, because you need somebody who, when you give them a recommendation, they're going to trust that you have their best interest at heart. So in those moments is where that relationship part, that attunement, that vulnerability, those all really come into play, so that they have that felt sense of, this person really has my back and they're really working hard for me.
True.
So it's so hard for me to do something like that. I'm
so
always
hard.
like, it is very hard. Like, I'm always like, take charge, let people know I got it, I got them, and like you fall behind me and I got this, I'm fighting all the wars for you. You don't need to worry about it. I have your interest at heart, but you are hiring me for a reason. And I'm very frank about it. Our first conversation goes something like, I'm the boss when it comes down to real estate. So if you like, we have lawyers, we have very A personality clients, and they walk all over my staff or everything, right? And I go in and just like, hey, I don't care when you're in a courthouse or when you are in a surgery. I don't tell you how to do the surgery, how to fight your cases. You hired me for a reason. Let me do my job. And if something is wrong, I will come back to you and let you know after I have found a solution. So if you don't hear from me, don't worry about it. I don't over communicate. I'm not going to stay in communication. I'm a really busy person. If you need a realtor who is always keeping you updated kind of thing, I'm not that person. And I find that as long as we have that frank conversation, the first meeting, right? And I ask them like, okay, tell me what you're looking for. And there are times when I have gone back to them, I was like, I know that's what you told me when we met, but this is not what you're looking for. Every house I'm showing you that is open concept, you find it cold. You need cozy. So we are going to change this and let me show you what I think you're looking for. And it has worked and people really appreciate it. Like, oh my God, I got the expert and I'm paying. And I tell them like, we get paid really good amount of money for a reason, right? So everybody thinks realtors get overpaid. I was like, yes, we get paid good money because you are hiring me for my expertise, not to open the door. Anybody can open the door. Mm-hmm. And that works for me. What you're talking about, even if I say it, it won't come across as a genuine thing out of me because I don't know how to say it.
It's not authentic for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you got to be you.
Right.
You don't have to be me.
Yeah, and
you get to be your authentic self. So you may be that more directive kind of personality that might be kind of what's comfortable. And so maybe you lean on that and you say, hey, this is how I really get excited about working. And that's kind of your style. So, I don't ever expect anyone to do things the way I do them.
But I would say, consider this for a second, Priyanka, because as I'm listening, I know this isn't exactly what you do, but as you give your normal speech, here's what I do, right? I'm going to go with bat for you. I do all this. If you threw in there a little like, this is important to me because I just want to make sure I do the right thing for you. Like truly, that's that little bit of vulnerability that sneaks in that I do think endears you to the client. Does that make sense?
That's her vulnerability.
But I think it comes across. I mean, if somebody's hiring you, that means they trust you, or you have won their trust. They know that you're going to do a good job for them. I mean, nobody's going to hire if they don't have that feeling with you, that you're not going to protect their interest or you don't have their interest at heart. So saying it is not, I think it comes across like when you're talking to them, if you're a genuine person, they're going to connect with you. And that's what I feel like. If I have connected with the client when we meet, the battle is won. Like after that, no matter what happens or what I say or do, like I have told you, I have shouted at clients and they still hang around, right?
But sometimes that connection changes. That's why I was curious to talk to you about also is there's moments where when it's calm, you're connected, everything is good. And then something will happen in the transaction because this is real estate. There's always stuff that happens. And so in your dynamic in therapy, things, obviously you have moments of more, because she does a lot of couples therapy, right? Exactly, so there's two people in the room.
There's a lot of feeling in the room.
And a lot of feelings, right? I don't know if you've ever been in therapy or know much about it, but think about it. We also do deal with two people also typically that might not be on the same page. So it's really, you have a husband and a wife in a transaction or two partners in a transaction. And so what do you do when you have one person who is emotional, angry, irate, the other person who might be a little disconnected? How do you handle that in therapy? And can we make any connections to how we do that in the world of real estate?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and the way I deal with it is, again, I find, there's of course 1,000 ways to stop someone from talking, but to help them with the emotions that they're feeling is a whole different animal. So when I'm noticing, okay, I have clients who are getting really escalated, maybe one person's getting really quiet and you just feel that simmering tension. Maybe they're getting loud and they're talking fast. There's a lot of different cues that usually, and I'm sure we've all had this feeling, it's like the tension starts creeping up inside your body. Your body says, uh-oh, things just shifted. Something just happened, right? And I use that as a tool. It's like my own personal compass of what my clients are needing at that point. So if there's a deal, something's gone poorly, or there's a couple who are in major disagreement, my job is first take one person at a time, make your job a little easier. Don't try to take them both on at the same time. But give yourself permission to use that internal compass. And you can even say, and I do this a lot, and this is one of those things where when I learned it, I thought, oh gosh, that sounds scary. This couldn't possibly work. And it does every time, where I'll use myself and I'll put words to this of, oof, I don't know about you guys, but I just noticed a real shift in the room here. Are you guys feeling that? Do you feel a little bit of that tension? And I'll say, hey, I'm not a psychic. I don't have a crystal ball. Am I getting this right? Will you help me with this? What am I feeling? What's happening right now? Am I kind of, I'm mad, or I'm stressed, or I'm not feeling right? They give their answer. You hear it, you take it in, you really sit with it for a minute. And then I reflect back, I get why you're so mad. I'm matching, I'm attuning, I'm giving that intensity back, not in an angry way. I'm holding space. I'm being the secure person. I'm kind of building that foundation for them, but I'm reflecting back. Of course you're frustrated. Gosh, I know this is a really hard situation. I so appreciate your honesty with me, with that you're giving me, that you're letting me see what's going on for you. I know that's hard to do. And I really appreciate the agreements to open with me. Let's slow this down a little. Let's see if we can figure out a way to deal with this. So I'm attuning, I'm slowing them down, but I'm also using myself as a barometer so that they know, yeah, I feel this too. You're not alone in this. This isn't a you problem. We're a team here. And also then I'm putting it back to them. How can I be a support to you? If there's not a clear answer, of course, the type of work I do is I never give a clear answer because they already have the answers.
Our world's a lot more concrete.
Yeah, your world's concrete. So this is where you maybe give them some very specific answers. You can still use your body's compass to help them with the emotion when they're in it to get back to a grounded place.
Which makes sense. And I know we lost Priyanka for a minute, but she'll probably be right back. But I was just thinking, you use the compass to kind of acknowledge what just shifted in the room, but then you actually give them solutions, right? Mm-hmm. You can go to what Priyanka always says. She's very directive. In your world in therapy, you're not going to solve someone's internal whatever's going on, but here we can say, here's your options. You can accept the offer, right? Mm-hmm. Counter back. Like you can give real options, but in order to get them to even see those, you have to de-escalate first, which is what I love about this. Is that
true? Yes. True. Like sort of connect with them emotionally first. Understand what the emotions they're going through so that they'll be on board with you on where you want to direct them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And this is something Elana told me the other night, which I love, and I never realized before. Sometimes, and I was curious, Priyanka, if this relates to your clients, you said you have a lot of like type A clients. So you think some people, when they're angry or frustrated or stressed, they get really loud and they get into it. But you told me the other night, maybe you could explain how sometimes when people get quiet, it actually, especially for men, what is that a signal of? Like, how does that relate in terms of like, instead of them getting loud, it actually feels that sense of control you were trying to explain to me about, like when they get quiet. Remember what I'm talking about?
You mean when they're withdrawing?
Yeah, when they're withdrawing.
Yeah.
How does that show up? Like, what is that?
So I'm going to give a very brief lesson on brains that requires no knowledge of neuroscience, but I find this really helpful. Our brains are in either a green state, if we're thinking of a traffic light, a green state, a yellow state, or a red state. When our brains are in a red state, high alert, cortisol, we're stressed out, we're mad, like you said, but maybe it isn't really showing as loud. Maybe it's showing as very stoic and very still face. But we still know, right? Because you're checking in with that little internal compass because you're tuning in with yourself. Wait a minute, I think something's going on. My client's really stressed out right now. If they're in that yellow state, they're stressed, they're coping, but it's kind of not going great. Green is like holiday vacation. They're happy. Things are smooth sailing. When your clients are in yellow or red state, problem solving goes out the window. Language goes out the window. Reason goes out the window. That's the way our brains are designed. If we run into a bear in the forest, we need to not be logical. We need to get out of there. So doing some of these more tender, soft, validating things, you're getting your client's brain out of that red danger state into a green state where then they can hear the choices. They can hear, okay, are we buying? Are we selling? Da, 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 da. I'm not a real estate agent. I guess.
Are we inflating the boat? No, whatever. Whatever we do on a daily basis. Yeah.
What
I go off somewhere and come back.
Yeah.
What I think I just want to understand, doctor, there are poker faces, right? Like they're just standing here like as if nothing is happening. Would you be able to have a signal or a telltale signs that they're actually messed up inside? Something's going on there. Where there'll be a giveaway.
I feel it here. I think most of us do. I have many clients who, when they're really triggered, when their brain is in that red state, they are still, they are stoic, because I felt a shift in the room. And I do a lot of teletherapy. It doesn't have to be in person, but it's that felt sense that, and if you're not connected to that, you're not able to use that as a tool.
So how do you feel it over Zoom? Because we all do a lot of Zoom these days. Like, because you're sitting in a room, you can feel like, is there any signals? Is it like a sound, a breath? How do you know? Because obviously you
when
just know
you start to feel uncomfortable.
So you hear that, Sandra, when she starts to feel uncomfortable. So when you yourself feel uncomfortable, it probably means that they are also feeling. Got it.
So my question would more be, what do you do when you're stressed? Those are the cues.
Go ahead, Priyanka.
Jesse, when do you see your clients? Because I don't see this in my clients, right? Because I do not let stress pass to my clients. I really, really strongly feel.
You are, it is not possible that you have sold. I'm just going to push back. There is no way your clients are not feeling stress. I don't care how good you think you are. They are not showing it to you because they do not feel safe showing it to you. That's my only guess, Priyanka. And we lost you on video, but you don't think your clients have ever felt stressed? That's crazy.
Well, there is something interesting about stress, actually.
We lost her. Are you still here, Priyanka? All right, go ahead.
So there's a lot of people, and this is actually a really great thing to share with clients, because a lot of people know what stress is. Distress, we know what that is. Damsel in distress, we get that. Yeah. Eustress is, you can remember it like euphoria and stress. Eustress is when you have an anxious response to something good. That's just as common. A wedding day, selling your house, getting pregnant, having a child, adopting, fill in the blank. Those are still an emotional experience of stress, which sometimes can be even more confusing for your clients, because they have this conflict of, well, this is a good thing. Why am I having this uncomfortable feeling? So when you're able to put words to that for them, it gives them space to put a name and a way of processing. Oh yeah, I am actually feeling stressed, even though this is the house of my dream. Gosh, now I'm signing up for this.
Right. And I wish Priyanka was back. She was out on the road. You probably lost her, but I've been to therapy a couple of times, right? I'm married to a therapist. So as I'm going through therapy, I mean, I learned that I have a negative relationship to the word stress. I don't know if anybody watching feels that, but like, I don't like to admit that I'm stressed. I don't. It doesn't feel. I'm not supposed to be stressed. I'm supposed to be happy, right? And so I had to learn to acknowledge that the feeling I was feeling, that I would call any other word other than stress, was actually stress, right? She used to make fun of me because she's like, yeah, you're not stressed. You just feel whatever I would describe it as. So is there times when you don't have to acknowledge the word stress, but you could use other words for it to still, okay. So can you give some examples of how would you communicate? What would you do for people?
Well, this is another great one where you can kind of weave that self vulnerability piece in and use yourself as, gosh, this is so exciting that you got this house. Also, I just want to check in. I'm imagining myself in this position. I'd be feeling some big feelings right now because this is a big shift. I just want to check in and see, is this feeling big for you? Is this a big, I mean, you can use any phrase that feels authentic to you. Like, is this hard to swallow? Did you bite off a big piece here and you're kind of having to chew on it again for a while? I mean, it doesn't have to be I mean, I'm thinking of our kids and we say, this is a big feeling. And that works really well for adults too. We don't have to use the word anxious. We can just say, yeah, this is big. You're doing something big. It's okay to feel that.
So
and then,
what I'm,
go ahead.
yeah, sorry, go. Sorry, just.
Oh, I was just going to say, and then, so it's I never got this for such a long time, but putting a name to that, when someone else says it out loud, immediately I start to feel better. I'm like, oh, that does feel better. And then the feeling starts to pass. Go ahead, Sandra.
Yeah. So what I just want to clarify that, because there are people who really, let's say for real estate, right? When you meet the person, it's really, his persona is really stoic, really poker face. Like even in the first meeting, he's like, yeah, whatever, like emotionless. So you met him like that, and then all through the process, he's still the same. So when there's already a real stress that's going on, even if you have met him that way, you know him that he's like that, you would come to a point that you will feel within you that if he's really stressed, even if his persona is really stoic, really, I don't know, quiet, you'll feel somehow that when he's already really stressed, despite that facade.
Right. Great question. My brain is feeling tickled as you're asking this. Yeah, I would say, that's such a great time where you can kind of tune into your own self compass and say, oh, okay, this is someone who's not going to be very expressive. And I would put words to that. I'd say, let's say his name is John.
Yeah.
John, I'm so excited to work with you. Is it okay if I check in with you about something? I'm noticing sometimes I have a bit of a hard time getting a felt sense of when you're feeling good about the work I'm doing with you or when you're feeling stressed. And I get a little worried if I don't know that I'm doing such a good job for you because you're so important to me. And gosh, I'm betting you're just got such the great poker face. You can kind of make light of it. You can compliment, say, man, in the business world, you must crush it because you've got an amazing poker face. So you're validating, saying, hey, since we're working here on a team and we have that shared goal of you getting what you want, would you help me out a little bit? Could you help me to understand when you're feeling stressed, what kinds of signals might I be seeing? Or what ways do you feel comfortable letting me know when you're feeling stressed so that I can make sure that I'm picking up on those cues and that I'm doing the best I can for you when there's something that isn't going perfectly smoothly? Could you help me with that? That's kind of how I would frame it ahead of time so that down the road, you're not having that anxiety of, oh gosh, is he happy or not?
Right.
He's already, and he's on the team, he's on board, he's agreeing with you, and you've shown that vulnerability. So he feels a little safer to be a little bit more vulnerable with you.
Yeah. Vulnerable, but yet still intellectual. Don't you agree, Jesse?
Oh yeah.
Like you recognize that I can see that you are very good in this poker face thingy. You like everything is under control. So.
But I love even that she's calling it validating. To me, it's giving an authentic compliment, right? Like, say, like you must crush it in business, right? Because you're so good at this, and it just helps soften that wall. So then you can. There are things that I know I do with my clients that I do kind of naturally. That when I talk to Elana, I understand the psychology, the brain psychology behind why it works. Like, oh, this is why I do that, and this is why it helps. Because I always look to give someone an authentic compliment. It's something that I don't do it just to make them feel good. I do it because I just genuinely like people and I look for the best of them. But I know that when I tell them something that's a genuine compliment, it does also help to soften and build that connection so that as you're going through it, it just helps build that bond. It's definitely a conscious thing.
Yeah. So definitely this is for really difficult situation and like difficult to tell kind of people who don't really show emotion and really unexpressed not expressive of what they feel. So I think this webinar is really for that kind of people, right? Because you can't always, I may be strong, I may have a strong personality, but I realize over time that it's my way will not always work.
Right.
my way, like you do this, you do that. We got to do this, we got to do this. That's not always going to work, because if they're not connected with them emotionally first, they don't feel like you get them. It would be hard for them. You'll get through a time that it's hard for you to get them to work with you, because they're just not on the boat with you.
Well, here's before we wrap up in a few minutes. Here's the question you just had me think of, Sandra, for Elana. Do you ever change? Because like Sandra says, she's a strong personality a certain way. Do you ever change how you are with your clients in terms of based on their personality? Do you do the same thing every time, or do you change a little bit in some ways? If you were sitting down with like one of your clients was a realtor, a busy type A realtor, if you had a client like that, versus if you had someone who was a retired engineer, I'm just making it up, right? Would you engage them in different ways, or would the same things work, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have the benefit, and I don't know how this fits into real estate, but I do a lot of intake assessment, and I'm guessing you don't call it that, but you do the same thing where you're getting to know your clients.
It's the first meeting with a client. We absolutely, in our team and here at San Diego, we do a buyer intake or a listing presentation where you're getting to know the client. Same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my question I ask is, have you done therapy before? Your question would be, have you worked with a real estate agent before? How did that go for you? Did you have any times where it went really well, where it went really poorly? And usually I find that will give me the answer to whether there's any landmines that I wouldn't change who I am, but my job is to be very attentive to my clients' triggers so that I am a secure foundation. I'm not activating stress in a way that is detrimental. I'm activating some places that we need to do work, but always in that safe, held space. So I would say be yourself, also making space to really get a sense of who is this person? How do they work best with others? Some people say it can be really simple. I hate talking on my phone, only text me. That's a very simple thing. If you start calling this person on their phone, immediate misattunement, they're going to get really irritated. So those kinds of things, usually people are pretty self-insightful. They'll know, hey, here's what doesn't work for me. And you could even, if they've never done real estate, say, hey, when you do business kind of interactions in your job with your partner, in school, what tends to feel good for you? How do you like to work? How do you work in a team? And get a really good sense of where their comfort level is. So you can be yourself, but you can also be respectful of what their boundaries are.
Okay, so we don't really change who we are. It's just that I think it's more like we just make them feel good, that they're safe in their own space, like how they want to react. They can do that with you, and they know that you respect it. We don't really change who we are, right?
People have an amazing BS barometer internally. If we are not authentic, they can smell it from a mile away, and you will lose them. So when Priyanka was talking about her style, so I said, yeah, be you. Don't try to be someone who's very soft and, gentle. And that's not, it's just going to come off as inauthentic. You're better off to be yourself.
And I think that's Priyanka's vulnerability, right, Jessie? That for me, I consider that's her, that not for weakness. It's just that she's open and she can say that I work this way.
Right. I thought the reason she jumped off the webinar is because I offended her when I said that her clients felt stressed. She's like, my clients never feel stressed. And she just disconnect. No, I'm kidding. She I'm sure she lost signal somewhere. No, but it's what I love about her also, though, is because she is so authentic with her clients. Like that is who she is. And that's why her clients love her, because she is who she is. Right. Yeah. It's most people couldn't pull off what she does because it wouldn't feel authentic for them. They would just feel bossy. But with Priyanka, because it's coming from a good place. So I think that's the key is when we did a whole episode, I mean, people looking at the YouTube channel, they can go back and watch the whole one of these on authenticity, which is a really interesting thing to define or teach someone. Do you have any tips on that as to how do you be authentic? How do you be yourself? Like what's the...
Yes, I learned this in Thailand.
Okay.
When we're not being authentic, it's usually because we're nervous. We want to come off well. I'm making sure I'm checking in with myself. Here I am. I don't do this kind of thing and I want to get it right. So I notice my nervous feeling and checking in again, using that internal compass. Am I feeling nervous? Is there something here that, I'm feeling a sense of there's a right way and a wrong way? And really tuning into that, giving yourself permission to feel that is big. If you're not allowed to feel something, the feeling gets bigger. If you're allowed to feel it, it gets smaller. And one thing that's kind of a easy visualization is when you are noticing I'm anxious in a social situation, is imagining your heart opening. And there's something about that that just gives your body a little bit more space. Sorry, keep your hands down. A little bit more space just to feel safer. So imagining this open heart, I know maybe that's a little woo-woo for some, but it's really effective. And kind of just remembering the person I'm talking to has just as much nervousness as I do.
But I think, and I've never actually heard you say that before, and that might be a good way to wrap it up soon, Sandra, is you said if you're allowed to feel a feeling, it goes away, versus if you can't feel it gets bigger. And I think that might be something that when I was hearing Priyanka talk, I was curious to dive into that, because like if you tell your clients they're not stressed and you just push through it, like that, anytime someone tells me not to feel something or don't think about it, that's all I think about, right? Like, don't think about an elephant. Don't think about an elephant. That's all you're thinking about right now is an elephant, right? It makes it, if you just allow them to process through it, they move on. I like that idea. I never thought of it that way before.
Yeah, I think what the Dr. Elana said is correct, because there are moments wherein when you say, no, don't feel like that, to some it feel, at least for me, it would feel like, oh, so my feelings is not valid. I'm
Right.
stressed here, but yet you're telling me that I'm not supposed to feel that way. So mine is not valid, right? So that's when like clients start to kind of be on their shell, like you're invalidating me now. So no, like I don't trust you. Like I don't know if I can trust you, right?
Yeah.
So allowing yourself to be vulnerable, they become vulnerable too. And then that, I think that makes the connection that, oh, so you're human, you're not just here to make money. Right?
Yeah. If you ever want to see this happen in real time, go to a playground and watch a little kid when they inevitably fall and hurt themselves. If the parent comes up to them, oof, that hurt. Would you like a hug? Of course that hurt. That was so scary for you. The kids, they cry, they're done, they're good, they run off. You see a parent, back up, tighten up, don't cry, don't cry. The kid is just amping it up and up and up and up because they're so in tune with their feelings, and somebody's telling them what they're feeling isn't valid. So then the feeling spikes. So I always think playgrounds are such an interesting place to see how emotions play out and how we move around with them.
That's true. And then Jessie, Lisa here has mentioned I think this is true. We are a reflection of the energy in the room. So you are correct. If you are feeling a little nervous, the other person most likely is nervous as well.
Beautifully said.
Beautifully said, Lisa. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I love it. Well, do you have anything else before we wrap this up? By the way, these are the conversations we have at home at night. I really attribute a lot of I was a sales trainer. I learned all sorts about sales, but I feel like I've learned more in terms of communication from just being married to a therapist who's awesome. And it comes into play in the business. Do you have anything you want to leave people with before we wrap up?
My only thing was, let whatever you're feeling is normal and good, and lead with that. Those are your internal compass. It's not something that has to be pushed down, and you'll be 5 steps ahead of most.
Yeah. So it's not something that if you're already feeling something in the room, then that most likely is correct.
Yeah, Lisa said it beautifully.
I love it.
Sometimes I think some of us try to ignore it, like maybe it's nothing.
Yeah, or maybe there's something wrong with me. That's why I feel nervous. That's
yeah. I don't want to be awkward, so maybe it's
and not everything needs to be acknowledged in the moment, especially like in a couple's dynamic, right? If you're taking us to personal relations, but in clients, we're not going to dive into every little thing. But there's a lot of things that probably real estate agents gloss over that problems could have been avoided if they were addressed in the moment. And I think being attuned to that really does help. So I hope this helped people. I hope they got something out of this. This is obviously Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here with us, Sandra.
Yeah, I think we could do this more, and I think not everybody knows that much. So this might shock some of them. Why am I here? But that I serve as a community manager, right? And emotional gymnastic is a good webinar because this talks about emotional intelligence. And I don't remember where I saw this, but there was a person who said that emotional intelligence is also important part of what we do. Right? It's not all about the business, but we also have to be intelligent emotionally so that we can really connect with people.
I think it's the most important skill. I mean, I'm biased because I'm married to a therapist, but anyone can teach you the basic mechanics of how to sell a house or how to handle objections or what to do with marketing. This is the part of it that I really think when you look at most top producing agents, you look at most top producing anybody in most fields, there tends to be a high relationship to high emotional intelligence to their success. I see it over and over, especially in real estate. So
true, over and over. And like when they ask about how do we get clients, how do we keep clients, because I think I've saw this a lot of times as well in our group, wherein they will comment that he is my friend, he's a family member, he's a relative, and yet they work with a different agent. I don't get it, I hate it. Right? I see a lot of it comments or posts in the group, and I think that could be the reason why even if a family members of ours ended up working with somebody else, simply because they feel more connected with this different person, right? Yeah. Even if we are family members, but if they feel more connected to this person, they feel more safe with this person, they'll still end up working with that person, regardless of relationship. So emotional gymnastic is the thing to be in, to really, we want to talk about having our clients stay with us.
It's a skill set you can build like anything else, right? Skill set you can build. And Lisa, by the way, who's saying this is a great topic. I agree, Lisa. Thank you for watching this. This is fun.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you. And do we have any more questions? I don't see any more questions.
We're good.
Yeah.
I hope everybody enjoys their day, enjoys their week.
Yeah, we'll see you again in the next webinar. I'm excited. Charlie, oh, by the way, Charlie Rutherford, we see your comment. He said, this is awesome. Thank you, Charlie.
I know. I was like, Charlie's my buddy. Charlie actually lives up the block from us.
Really? Oh, yeah. Hi there, Charlie.
Next time we'll have Charlie come sit right here on camera. We'll have another head room. There you go.
A panel.
There you go. Well,
have fun. Okay, well, thank you. I think this wraps it up. Thank you so much, Jessie, our great moderator, LC Premium Coach, by the way, and your wife, Dr. Elana Zagorsky. Thank you so much for being on here. Appreciate it. That we've learned so much today. Vulnerability is actually an asset, right? It's not a weakness. So thank you for today's lesson, Dr. Elana.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jessie.
I had fun.
I'll say bye, guys. Bye, Sandra.
Bye-bye.